Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing something that I'm kind of surprised to be telling you guys about, or at least sharing with you all. And that is the fact that I've been really enjoying my mining. Now, the reason why I got here is because fights like these have become harder and harder to come by in Dark and Darker. It is very rare lately to see multiple melee classes just dueling and duking it out with everything on the line as you try to make your way into the upper echelons of greater gear. These fights are so crucial. Using my spear, which I talked about in the previous video, do everything I can to take out this guy, and then try to deal with the barbarian. Trying to get this portal open and just get out of here because this was very early on in this wipe. Just wanted to make it out with a little bit of gear that I had. Eat this throwing axe, and thankfully it doesn't kill us. And then dodge the last one as this guy's pushing inward. And we clean up another kill, which led to one of my favorite runs in Goblin Caves. So why am I back here? Why am I back mining? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to share with you guys today. Some examples of what has happened over the course of this past few weeks, and why I've been enjoying mining so much. As you can see here, you can kind of just spectate the chaos and hope you can make it out alive. And I'll be the first one to admit, making it alive is getting increasingly difficult as barbarians have been rampant, and I've learned a lot about my spear being forced into many situations just like this. Thankfully, this guy was using what many would call a troll weapon, or a weapon that really you shouldn't be using. If this guy was running Horseman's Axe or even his bare fists, like I'll show you in a moment, he could have rammed me down easily, punching me to death with Achilles strike, and that would be that. And it's those situations that become a little bit frustrating as a fighter player because you're not really sure what your options are. Right here, I had the option of spacing myself, using my distance, and winning the fight. Same as this fight here. This guy just outplayed me. Purely as that. I missed my strike. I do not feel bad about losing that engagement, as this guy earned it. I had every opportunity to win that 1v1, or at least make a decision that could alter how it went. Now, there are many times where you feel like you don't really get to make that decision. There seems to be a lot of moments lately where I go in there with a fighter class, with a decent kit, some awesome items or whatever, and I'm really only in there to make it fun for other classes, whether it be wizards or rogues or whatever. So I started to try to get some payback. I ran this crazy build even before the changes. I went halberd, victory strike with adrenaline rush, just because everything feels like a DPS check, where the melee combat is so quick, so fast. It's literally just who can DPS each other faster, which is why I think dual wield was so successful for me in the past. But if you use victory strike halberd in Goblin Caves where you get into melee engagements, you absolutely clobber people and it's hilarious. I started to feel a little bad doing this, as you basically win most of your engagements as you just out-damage everybody. This must be how it feels to play Barbarian with that Horseman's Axe, with Achilles Strike. Just DPS check everybody you face, and they die fairly quickly. Now, it's not really what I enjoy. I like the back and forth. The movements, the blocking, and this Bardiche guy, he could block, he could do a bunch of things to try and make that engagement better for himself. And I feel like that's the moments of skill and thought processing and decision making that makes me love the PvP in Dark and Darker. And I feel like we've started to lose some of that with Bard, Wizard, Rogue, all these classes completely changing how quick engagements are. Not just movement speed, but damage and magical power, all those things are just so strong. For example, this was me getting a little overconfident in my halberd skills with my kind of silly halberd build, I'll admit it. You should be running sprint, not adrenaline rush, victory strike. This is the very start of a Goblin Caves high roller when it used to cost 50 gold. And I bought meds, bought gear, invested in a lot of stuff, and felt, well, maybe I'll get into a couple of really awesome engagements where we can try this thing out. And this is as far as I got. And I'm not going to lie to you, I played high roller Goblin Caves, and I do realize it's kind of strange that no one's spawning here. I just thought maybe there wasn't a guy that spawned in this area this time. Not really sure how that works. But what I found out was there definitely was a guy spawning in this area. Just still have no idea what my halberd hit. Not quite sure. But, like Spud Hunter would say, I basically just stepped on a landmine, and that sucks, so be it. Move on to the next round. And it was this sort of experience that I had multiple times, where you're just like, what can I do differently? Should I be swinging at every dark corner as they rotate around me to get the backstab and all these buffs and bonuses, jumping into stealth? I don't understand how a melee class, if you're not super careful, can ever outcompete a rogue with a blue dagger. It's incredible. And then I go into another one thinking, okay, that's just a one-off. These things happen. Maybe I'll just get some better luck next time and won't run into a rogue. And I run into a wizard. And once he goes invis, I'm literally already counting myself out here. I'm not going to turn into Riddick and magically be able to predict where this guy's going to end up out of stealth before he fires a zap into me. There's just not a lot I can do here, and yeah, my build's terrible, I understand. I need crossbow. Even still. 2 zaps, I am cooked. There's not enough magic resist you can build on the fighter class to even come close to withstanding any of the damage. So you're either told constantly that you're a broken class because you can basically build 85% damage reduction, but as someone that plays solo, I understand how useless that would be and how much I would have to invest in time and gold and grinding, get this crazy awesome set, and still get 2-tapped by that zap. It's just not possible if you're only playing solo, which is what I do. I get it. There's a lot of guys out there that do very well in groups as a fighter class and stack PDR. That is not how I play this game. So, I jump into another one. Now that High Roller has been reduced on cost, I have a bit more faith things will be a little bit more fun. This is my very basic, I think now 34 damage spear because they up the damage on some low tier weapons. But essentially, I'm using pretty basic gear here, and there are a lot of people in Goblin Caves High Roller now that are going in there with just the basics. Which if you guys are trying to make gold or learn, just do it. Go into High Roller, doesn't matter if you die. It's better than dying to a kitted guy in normal HR since they removed that last portal. So yeah, I make some mistakes here. It's normal. I do it all the time. And the Goblin, this guy seems to move a little faster than the one I'm used to in Goblin Caves. The other seems to take a lot more damage, but a Warlock was harassing me relentlessly out of spawn. And I was getting so frustrated. Like, so frustrated. Pretty terrible loot drop, actually. A green drum and a few coins from a Goblin Caves High Roller Skeleton Champion. And I will say, some of the loot in Goblin Caves High Roller is not much better than the normal dungeon. It feels pretty average. You find the odd blue item, but a lot of bard stuff that's not going to do a lot for you. So I had this Warlock. I hadn't really seen him up close or witnessed what he had for gear, but it looks like he's wielding a longsword, and this will be an interesting fight. But a fight I feel like I have an opportunity to win. Like, I have my sprint ability, I have my adrenaline rush. We can push this guy and make something happen. He's not going to have great gear. He's not going to be fully stacked. This is a semi-hybrid, like, melee fight, which is so exciting to me. I'm not just getting 2-tapped by Zap, I'm not getting hammered by Quick Shot, and I'm not just getting jumped on by a rogue from the shadows. This is a fight, and we both have to commit to deal our damage. Even missing and getting blow corruptioned, I somehow survived. And this guy was wearing pretty light gear like myself, which made it, once again, very fun. And in this raid I had multiple interactions and fights where I killed a couple different guys and had really great engagements as they're all wearing somewhat light gear. So I will continue to monitor Goblin Caves High Roller, but for the most part, I didn't find the loot all that much more amazing than the money I could make going into this normal cave and mining, killing maybe even Skeleton Champion, which I'll show some examples of the loot here shortly. You can make some pretty decent bank here, and you're not being forced into this meta-driven rogue wizard playground, or even in Goblin Caves normal, it's been like barbs like crazy. I enjoy the peacefulness of it, the fact that if I do get an engagement, it feels natural. Most people that are fighting me in normal Goblin Caves are not super stacked, super crazy geared, and it can drive a little bit of my economy as a solo player. Sure, I could go down and maybe learn how to farm troll and just spend my days walking in circles kiting a troll. This doesn't feel like a real dark and darker experience I would enjoy. So for the most part, I've been spending a lot more time in normal Goblin Caves mining than I ever thought I would be spending. I thought I'd be grinding high roller or going into crypts like crazy, but the more I get run down by barbarians and bards, it just isn't fun at the time being. It's not to say there isn't a lot of fun to be had in some of these game modes. It just costs a lot of time. Time I don't have to farm gold, farm items, and I think there are some decent options you can purchase using your cobalt and ruby silver. And I mean, look at this. You can get some pretty crazy gear from just a normal Goblin Caves if you're killing Skeleton Champion. It's a +3 all attributes longbow and a decent felling axe. And I have farmed some pretty decent stuff out of here compared to the high roller Goblin Caves. Maybe it's changed now, and I hope more people are playing it so it does stay fun. And I will probably try out the duo queue mode, even though I feel like it'll just be a Ranger party house. So, if you want an inclination to what I've been doing with my ruby silver, I've been buying Lightfoot boots and the agility gloves. I feel like the agility gloves are just nice because I use them on almost all my builds with spear, and even the halberd build as action speed's nice to have. And then the boots give you +10 movement speed, so that's a huge bonus on anything I'm doing with my fighter class or playing solo. Movement speed is so huge. Forget the armor rating, I'm never going to have enough money to buy multiple different sets of gear to have any sort of survivability with full plate. So I go light and just run it and run it and run it. Super cheap. I might start buying those ruby silver leggings because you get a little bit of magic resist from them. However, you don't get the agility like the loose trousers. So for the most part, I've just been farming the blue cobalt ore. And if you wanted to, you can make some solid money just selling ore. Like, it is nice. The only thing that's kind of a shame right now is the fact that you straight up have a much more difficult time as they reduced one of the portals. So it's much more challenging because everyone was teaming, and it's made the experience a lot more difficult because you have to get a lucky spawn. Not only lucky spawn, you have to maybe get an early portal because it's difficult finding one at the end unless you're using the stairs. So my advice to you guys is, if you're running out of time or tired of farming gear for high roller, try mining, try making some money that way, and at the very least you'll get the satisfaction out of rolling maybe a couple decent sets of armor or items you could sell. I think it's a fun little mini game, and I do believe this game needs some quests soon. Something for players like myself to really dig into, as I've basically been creating my own roleplay and quests doing my permadeath series, which I'll continue. For the time being, most of my fun's going to be had farming gear, rolling on some loot, and just seeing how I can spend my time that isn't super sweaty range or rogue meta. Other than that, I wish you all the best of luck if you are exploring those options in high roller, and I hope it does get better. I'm just not a player that has 12 or 14 hours a day to constantly recycle gear into those modes. I'm pretty casual when it comes to this game, so thank you all, and I'll see you next time.